there's been a lot in the news lately. You know, this rising talk about separation. Thank you, Danielle Smith, for that. You know, and the crisis in the healthcare system, which is incredibly important to be talking about, but there's something else you might have missed. On the last Friday before Christmas, Danielle Smith and the UCP, they quietly released their report from their Alberta Next panels. You know, the folks that Albertans ended up paying to travel the province in a little roadshow, spread propaganda to promote things that everyday Albertans have already been very clear they don't want, like a vote on separation. At any rate, in that report, the panel, which was chaired by the Premier, coincidentally told the Premier exactly what she wants to hear, that the UCP should just go ahead with creating an Alberta provincial police force with no consultations, no referendum, and no say from Albertans themselves. And their logic on that? Well, they claim since so many cities already have their own police forces, well, it's really too small an issue to bother getting your opinion on. Seriously. Danielle Smith is arguing that you shouldn't have a say in whether she spends hundreds of millions of your tax dollars to kick out the RCMP and create an entirely new provincial police force because it's too narrow an issue. Doesn't affect enough Albertans to hold a provincial vote. Now, the RCMP disagrees. Shortly after the panel report came out, the National Police Federation, they put out a response. And they pointed out that actually they provide policing services for 40% of our population across 95% of Alberta's landmass. And of course, 100% of Alberta taxpayers are going to have to cover the costs of the UCP's political policing project. Costs that the UCP have refused to disclose. I mean, that's right. They refuse to tell you how much all of this is going to cost. There's no budget, there's no business plan, but they're going to force it through because they don't care how much it costs or how much chaos it creates. They're bound and determined to do this just so they can shake their fist at Ottawa. Second thing, here in Edmonton, a report to City Council said that crime, including violent crime, is dropping, but residents still feel unsafe. Why? Well, because of social disorder, that is, quote, visible public distress related to homelessness and or substance use in public spaces, including public transit. And the report from the city notes that city facilities like libraries, recreation centers have seen a huge increase in security incidents. And they've had to increase their security budgets by as much as 160% since 2019. And it's also very clear what the root of that issue is, that it's a social and not a criminal problem. And that the issue that's driving this are the responsibility of the provincial government, the UCP. They're the ones that are responsible for housing, mental health, addiction, and justice. And their failures to address gaps in those systems are the direct cause of social disorder that we're left living with in our communities. So if the UCP want to spend hundreds of millions of your public dollars to improve public safety, they can pull their socks up and make the investments and build the partnerships needed to actually address the core issues. And that's something a strong majority of Albertans, residents, business owners, everyone, have said they would like to see. But the UCP refuse. In fact, they're busy shutting down services, making cuts to community partners who are doing frontline work. Instead, the UCP, they're spending hundreds of millions of dollars on their pet political project to kick out the RCMP and impose a provincial police force. Oh, and of course, throwing the doors open on a dangerous and divisive vote on separation. All things that an overwhelming majority of Albertans have been very, very clear they do not want. But that's the UCP. They put their interests ahead of yours. Use their power as government to force through whatever they want. Now, to be clear, Alberta's New Democrats, we don't and we won't. We have a public safety blueprint that lays out a real plan to work with community partners, social agencies, police, and yes, the RCMP, to continue good work to reduce crime and address the roots of social disorder, to put your priorities first and actually build safer communities for everyone. Because better is possible, just not with the UCP.